Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. This is the second of the three debates between the first selectman, Mr. Zioli, and his contender. And I'm sorry, Mr. Dean. Thank you. It's always Mr. with us here.
One day it'll be Mrs.
Could be. I'm pleased on behalf of the Milford Orange Times. I'm also an Orange resident for many years, over 40 years, to present this debate to you. And tonight we have two moderators once again, Brandon Bisceglia, or Biscelli. We depend on how you read the Italian. He is editor-in-chief of the paper, and many of you have met him or have written for him over the years. And then we have Dr. Dan May, also an Orange resident, who is professor at UNH. And that's all I have to say for the moment.
Okay, so hi, I'm Brandon. The format for tonight will be, I believe we're going to do the pledge first.
Yeah, pledge.
Please rise and uncover as we render honors to the flag of our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. On behalf of the veterans of the Orange Veterans Hall, I want to thank you for participating in our political process. Mr. Moderator, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, the format tonight will involve first the candidates coming up to introduce themselves and their party colleagues. Then we will begin with a series of questions based on those suggested to us by readers. At around 8:30, we're going to have a short break, followed by an opportunity for audience members to ask questions. After that, we will have closing comments by the candidates, and we plan to end around 9:15 to 9:30. So if the candidate slates want to come up to introduce themselves, we can do that now.
I think we're all the candidates, please. Why don't you defer and I went first last week. Let Connor go first. Call them up so that people know who's coming up as they come up.
Yeah, that's fine. You can call them up.
All right, let's get started because it's going to be a long night, I guess. We're gonna start with our constables. Jay Carrier, Randy Thomas. Come on down. Santel Galtiotto. And you know what? I'm gonna make an executive decision. Can we hold our applause to the end so we can get through this? Our Amity Board of Education: Carla Eichler, Craig Lennon, and Patty Post. Our Orange Board of Education: Jared Milbrandt, Carmen Rodriguez, and Liz Tremper. Town Planning and Zoning: Dan Fitzmaurice and Mike Muddett. All right, Dan. Mike. Board of Finance: Kevin McNabola, Pat Romano, and PJ Shanley. Tax Collector: Mark Moyer. Town Clerk: Margaret Novicki. Board of Selectmen: Rosanna Capetta, Charles Flynn, and Mitch Goldblatt. I present to you our Democratic slate. Every time. See? I'm sorry, Ben. And Ben Gettinger, our candidate for probate judge. Come on up. Come on up.
Okay. I'd like to start with our probate judge, Wen Smith, right at the top of the list. Selectmen, Ralph Oakenquist. John Carangelo. And Judy Williams, who is currently out of state. Our tax collector candidate, Tom Hurley. And our town clerk candidate, Mary Shaw. Our Board of Finance, Ajit Jain and Joseph Nuzzo. The Elementary Board of Education, Ronette Pompano James, Tatiana Messina Mullins, and Jeff Capp. He's here. Our Amity Board of Education candidates are Sean Hartshorn and Christina Levere Daddio. Our zoning candidates are Oscar Ozzie Parenti, Tom Tarenti, and Kevin Cornell. Our constables are Jody Damon, Michael Donadeo, Glenn Papello, and Dan Zapatka. And this is your Republican slate of candidates.
All right, then. I think we're off to the races. So we're going to begin with opening statements. We will allow up to 5 minutes for each of you to introduce yourselves and your sense of the challenges and opportunities in Orange for this leadership role. And last, why you think you are better suited for the role than your opponent. And for this one, we will start with Mr. Zioli.
What is that?
Something annoying.
There's something squealing. It's the door. Oh, there you go. Good evening. Thank you to the Milford Orange Times, Mr. Heckman, Brandon, Dr. May, for providing this event for the residents of the town here and those that are at home or will watch it at a future time. It is being broadcast on OGAT, and also I think it's being streamed on YouTube also. But I'm Jim Zioli. I think most of you know that. I was born here, raised here, have lived here my entire life, have served on the volunteer fire department, have provided contract bus service for the town of Orange, have sat on the Orange Board of Selectmen for 6 years, have been first selectman for 16 years, sat on the State Board Advisory Board for continuing education of police officer training, was chairman of the State of Connecticut Department of Agriculture Farmland Preservation Advisory Board, for 9 years. Have sat and continued on many processes beyond that. Was sitting as first selectman, you get put into a lot of spots that you get to learn and meet a lot of people, which this job has provided, and it has been probably one of the most exciting experiences a person can have. My background with the town goes all the way back to 4-H and Little League and moves all the way forward to this current time. I think that we have a proven track record financially with this town, character-wise with this town, educational support with this town, and I think that anybody who wants to question any of those items, I would be glad to discuss. I think that you'd be hard-pressed to find a person who has given as much time to the position and to the town as I do. We do that while enjoying our own other parts of quality of life, both here and abroad, and supporting family, and supporting as many programs, projects, and needs that we can. I'm very proud to be here. While meeting with people, though, it's been very interesting. I tell them my background, and they're like, Jim, we already know you've been around forever and you do so much for the town. But then they ask me about my opponent, and I can't answer those questions, so I hope that Connor does, because people are asking what boards or commissions or involvement within this town or another town my opponent has been on, and I politely tell them that I don't know. And I think that that is the biggest part of knowing the town. And people want to know what you know about the town, what you've done for the town, how you've earned your way all the way to the top position. And I can safely back those things up for myself and continue to do so. I say to any of you that are here that are new people, newcomers to town, first I say welcome. We had 165 or more properties transferred during the pandemic. Anybody who had a house for sale, it was gone before they got around to putting the sign up at one point. It was crazy. But the biggest question I can ask is, why did you move to Orange? To better your quality of life, for a quality education for your children, for the character of the community, all of which I have been deeply involved in. And that doesn't happen just by accident. And it is proven, and I stand by my record as I sit here before you tonight. It's enough.
Mr. Dean.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. Many of you are back from last week, and I appreciate that. Thank you also to the Milford Orange Times for hosting this debate. We again have a chance to meet and share our views and vision for the town of Orange. I anticipate that tonight's discussion will be both lively and informative. I see this as an opportunity to present our respective positions on matters that impact our residents. I am a son of Orange, with over 60 years of strong family roots here in town. I attended the Orange and Amity school system, graduating from Amity High School. In 2010, I did leave Orange for a brief hiatus to attend the University of Cincinnati, where I earned my Bachelor of Fine Arts. Upon graduating in 2014, I founded my own company, Broadway Method Academy, which trains young people in musical theater. As a small business owner, I understand the importance of the bottom line. I know the importance of delivering expected services to my customers. My customers have an expectation of the quality of product they receive. Like many other business owners, I spend a lot of my time balancing and forecasting, always conscious of each financial decision. As I've said before, it's vital to any organization that wishes to be successful. As your first selectman, I will ensure that the town delivers up to that expectation of those paying the bill, namely you, the taxpayers. Accountability, fiscal responsibility, clear communication are all pillars of success. I look forward to being able to bring that foundation to the town of Orange. As we dig ourselves out of COVID-19, it is imperative that we have strong and steady leadership, one who works for all the residents of the town, ensuring that our future will forever be bright. I look forward to sharing some of those ideas with you all tonight. And I just want to briefly comment on what the first selectman said. Frankly, I don't think it's fair to make an insinuation that because I have not served on an official board, which I do look forward to my new appointment of serving on the Bicentennial Committee, which I found out I was appointed to last night, so thank you, Jim. I don't believe that that is a prerequisite to be involved in democracy. I know Jim's service to this town. I know how long he's been here in town. As I said in the last debate, I enjoyed getting on the bus every morning in second grade on Bus B. I'm a young person. I love this town, and I'm excited to bring fresh new ideas that are built on a foundation of me growing up in this town and having strong roots. And I want to make very clear that I think anybody who wants to get involved in our democracy should. I do not believe that you have to have certain positions to have valid ideas and thoughts on how to better our town and our community. Thank you.
Thank you both for your comments and your commitment to public service. So we appreciate, everyone appreciates you being here and hoping to take on this role. Let me discuss the approach now for these compare and contrast questions. We'll pose a question to the first candidate. They can come up with a response for up to 3 minutes, followed by their opponent for 3 minutes to express their viewpoint and to include any rebuttal. And then if there is a need for a rebuttal from the first candidate, for up to 2 minutes. So it'll be a 3-3-2 approach. We'll alternate the order of who responds first. John McNambola will be the timekeeper. He's got flags here for 20-second warning and one to wave for the timeout, and we will honor that as well. We ask everyone to honor the candidates, to give them time to their response. We will have time at the end of the session after a brief break for audience questions, and we ask you to hold your comments to that point in time. We also ask you to silence your phones if you haven't already. All right, we'll work through questions here till about 8:30 and then plan that break, and then we'll resume after that. All right, I'll start with the first question then for Mr. Dean to respond. Mr. Dean, please talk about why you think home property taxes and the mill rate have increased for the last several years, and what you would do about this burden for residential homeowners.
I think that's a great question. Thank you, Dan. I've said before, I think we need to take a look at our economic development and making sure that we're bolstering up our Economic Development Corporation to help offset some of the costs that are falling on residents. I don't know why taxes have continued to go up here in Orange, but as any homeowner here knows, they have. And we've talked about before return on investment. While there have been certain projects that have happened across town over the last 16 years, I don't know how far we've gotten. And I don't know how far we're going to go if we remain under the same leadership. I've said before that I would meet with business owners, both current Orange business leaders as well as prospective business leaders, to try and figure out a way to entice them to come do business in Orange. We have a perfect district for commercial development, which is the Post Road. And as a small business owner myself, I have been enticed to go to certain communities. It's actually been brought up by residents. Why didn't you open your business in Orange? Well, to be honest, at the time when I opened my business in Orange, the arts weren't as valued here in town. So I went to Fairfield, where they are valued, and where my business happens to be booming because of that. So that's a big part of this. How we can keep taxes in line is making sure that we are investing, communicating, cooperating with our commercial business leaders.
Mr. Zeoli.
I think that if you were to travel the Marsh Hill corridor, you would see much expansion since I took office. It started with working with Paul Grimmer with a grant that continued Edison Road from where it dead-ended just past Pez Candy all the way out to Marsh Hill. That had been on the books since 1962 and was never completed. The motto we took on that was, if you build it, they will come. Well, we built that road with part town and part grant money, and that road is all occupied with the exception of one parcel owned by Pez Candy behind the current candy factory and warehouse building, which they have no interest in selling. You would see big things like FedEx. FedEx is driven just the same as Amazon, DHL, UPS by each and every one of us. Anybody who's shopping online or placing orders over the phone, and one of those many colored vehicles appears at your yard, they have to operate out of somewhere. FedEx liked that location. We worked very hard with them. They paid $7.5 million for that piece of land to do that. The VA Outpatient Services Building, we worked with Senator Lieberman and Rosa DeLauro for 7 years. They were searching the region all around the VA hospital in West Haven for a location that was close, but not quite at it because of the fact that they were all jammed up there with parking and travel transportation, getting people in and out. We worked very closely with the government to land that, and I ended up dealing with a firm from Indianapolis for that. You have a new independent living, assisted living, and memory care building going up on Indian River Road, right across from Christmas Tree Shops. A company from Oregon that we met with repeatedly. The Hilton Suites Hotel, we worked with them. Many of you don't know that the town has 2 tax incentive business plans that we employ to entice some of these businesses here. There's one with a $4 million threshold and a $15 million threshold. We've employed those repeatedly for some of these projects. So you have to know the projects, know the people, be willing to deal with the people,
Okay.
which I have done
Okay.
for many years.
Thank you, Mr. Zeoli. Any further follow-up, Mr. Dean?
Yes. FedEx is now here. How long did that take? Pretty sure that took 14 years to bring a business to one of the most desirable lots on the Northeast Corridor. 14 years. That property sat vacant. I don't really think that's acceptable. I also look at where my family business was for many, many years, the Firelight Shopping Center. Again, I'm pleased to see that that is going to be moving. But again, that has been an eyesore to the town of Orange. And if I were first selectman, I would not find that property acceptable. Quite frankly, it's embarrassing. You know, and one more point, knocking on doors, meeting a lot of Orange residents, they don't do their shopping in Orange. The majority of their shopping happens elsewhere. The majority of going out to eat happens elsewhere. As first selectman, I'd like to bring it right here back to Orange. And I think we can do that with public and private partnership.
All right, this question is for Mr. Zeoli. Home values have been going up in Connecticut. Eventually, though, revaluation is going to come, and there is the possibility at that point that the mill rate will go down even while the tax burden on homeowners goes up. How would you manage that scenario?
We are headed to revaluation in '22, so that is 100% right on. It's mandated by the state every 5 years. We have seen an increase in demand for housing as people have moved from other areas to this area, as I already said. Just in one bubble, we had 165 properties change hands. You will see an increase in value, which may be a good thing, but not necessarily. But if you're going to sell your home, it's a nice thing. But will that bubble last, or will there be a lot of people that are hung out to dry that paid a lot of money for some homes that if that bubble were to burst, if the economy were to struggle, if interest rates were to climb, you're going to see some very difficult situations. And those people will then have caused the increase, whereas those that have been here for a long time will be much more stable. When the mill rate, when the appraisal rate rises, the mill rate should decline due to the increase in grand list. Until that actually happens, you can't predict because the numbers are unknown. You presume that your grand list will go up, your mill rate should decline. And it's a mathematical equation that can't be determined until that happens. We don't know how the revaluation companies, whoever is the successful company hired by the town, how they will adjust for those bubble purchases. And compared to, say, somebody who's owned a house for 20 years, 25 more years here in town, that is currently at a much lower level. Your house might be a $300,000 house, $329,000, which would be appraised at 70%, probably like $289. And then all of a sudden, you had houses very similar that were selling for $495, $525. So there's a great disparity there. So that's going to be driven by the determinations of the revaluation company, and then it will be driven secondarily by the Board of Assessment Appeals. But until those numbers are known, you can't say exactly where it's going to fall out.
Mr. Dean?
We are going to have to wait and see, right? And we're on the brink of that. But throughout COVID, it's been interesting to pay attention to the real estate here in Orange and elsewhere, frankly, in southwestern Connecticut. Many families are moving in. They're leaving cities. They've been moving throughout. So I'm going to pivot because I think it's important to talk about with these families coming in and purchasing homes in Orange, what are we going to do to make sure we're ready on the education level? And I think that's important. Going back to the previous question of commercial expansion, I think we will have more ability to invest in our school systems, which hopefully will keep property values higher as we get closer to this reval.
Mr. Zioli?
I think Connor does have a grip on it, and there's a secondary problem, which is the education side of it. Connor, you're 100% correct there, because where we're trying to hold class sizes, which we're known for being relatively reasonable, I'll call it. Some people would like to have classes of 13 to 16. We have classes that are higher than that, but what we're seeing is classes that are starting to bubble over. When you start to get classes of 23, 24, 26 in this day and age, it's very challenging, especially with your smaller children, which are active and a little bit harder to deal with. I mean, when I came to this building when it was a school, in Miss McGuire's class, Miss Swirsky, Patty Conti, all of them, I think there were 24 to 26 kids in my class back then, and those were with one teacher. Nowadays, there's a lot of different reasons going on with the schools, and this is a big challenge that we face. There's a lot of paras in classes, helping teachers and staff, and that is absolutely being driven by a lot of people, and they're coming here because we have a great town. They like the character, they like the town, they hear about the education. We've been written up repeatedly, not just, it's not me, it's all of us. And the people come here because of this town. And it's outside of New Haven, it's not too far from New York, they commute remotely, they'll work, or if they're working, a lot of people working in the Yale hub. So that's what we're dealing with. It is definitely a challenge.
Thank you.
Mr. Dean, with the statewide legalization of marijuana, most towns, including Orange, are making difficult decisions about allowing dispensaries and consumption. How do you think the town should approach marijuana sales and use, both short-term as we try this, and then longer-term as we get information about its impacts? And also, should there be a coordinated approach with nearby regional towns?
Well, first of all, the town really has no control over the consumption of cannabis. I want to be clear on that. What the town does have the ability to do is decide whether or not we would like to have dispensaries, retail. The state has put forth legislation that only allows the town of Orange, based on population, to have one retail location. So that's all we're dealing with. We're not dealing with every single shopping mall potentially becoming a dispensary. That's not going to happen. As of right now, that's clear in the legislation, and I've spoken with our elected state leaders to ensure that. I've said this before, it's a win-win. I think that with cannabis now being regulated by the state of Connecticut, it's going to be safe. To me, it's no different than alcohol consumption or prescription drug consumption. I think that the cherry on this cake is the fact that we get a kickback from all of the sales that happen. I understand that people might not be comfortable with cannabis being in the forefront and not something that's happening in the basement of a high school party anymore, but I do think we have to come to terms with it's real. People are using it. People are using it for medical reasons. This is not lighting up a blunt or smoking a bowl anymore. Like I've said before, it's a seltzer. It's oil. So I'm for it, and I want to be clear about that. I think that we have an opportunity to make a little bit of money, and what will that money do? Right? We're talking about one retail location in Orange. Is that going to be a ton of money? Maybe not. Maybe it will. Maybe it will exceed our expectation. I think you'd be surprised about how many people use cannabis. And I've thought about this. Let's say the retail location does $1 million a year in revenue. That's easily 15 grand for the town of Orange. That's new computers in town hall. That's an easy way for us to update our technology. I'm sure we all can agree that our tax department could probably use some technology upgrades. This money can come right from the kickback of the retail. So I think it's a win-win for the town.
Mr. Zioli?
I think there's some interesting parts to this. I think we were asked this question last week, or similar question, and I stated the same thing now I will that I did last week. I gave up alcohol when I was 28 years old. I don't use marijuana. I haven't used marijuana. I don't think it's anything I particularly need. Maybe it'll make me smile more, somebody said to me after the meeting last week. I don't smile a lot. But the state has regulated it, and they have made it possible for a community to collect some revenue on this. And as I said last week, we thought that it was going to be handled a little differently by the state, where we get checks, whether it be for education, cost share money, or town aid road, or some of these other programs where the state Office of Policy and Management electronically transfers the funds into a municipal account all across the state. That's not the case with this one. A person, an employee of the town, one of the bookkeepers, clerical, will have to be in contact with Department of Revenue Services for sales for that facility. We're allowed one in Orange. It's a 21 facility for every 25,000 people, or one per community, depending on what your population count is. And then finding out, so you go after, you chase this money, you get it, hopefully the proprietor of the business will pay it, and they'll probably make a lot of money, so I'm sure they will. But the part that you might want to look into is the state has also put restrictions now, as part of that bill, on the funds. And in case you think I'm wrong, most of you have iPhones or one of the many phones, look it up and see what uses the state has put on that with the restrictions where the money can be spent. So while we will get some money, a town like Orange might have trouble using some of it as prescribed by the restrictions of the bill. I've already been contacted by a developer as soon as it hit, and they may have optioned a property already. I don't know, but they have come in to see me that they were interested, and there's a whole process to apply for to be accepted to be the chosen vendor. But yes, I've even met with a potential cannabis dealer. Imagine, years ago, you would have called the police.
Mr. Dean, any follow-up?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what Jim is referring to in terms of the restrictions on the revenue, but let's say there is. I imagine if the state were to put forth restrictions on cannabis revenue, that the town would have to probably invest that money in some type of addiction counseling, I would imagine. If that's the case, again, I think that is an excellent option for the town to invest in. Plenty of people have addiction problems, and to know that we would have a line item in our budget to invest in that is I think, an excellent, excellent thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Zioli, Orange is set to receive several $1 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds. That's coronavirus relief. Other towns and cities have been holding forums to gain public input on how to use the funds. What are your priorities for that money, and how would you involve residents in deciding how it gets used?
First, I have to go back to the last answer. We have an organization that is run, its lead person for us is Jessica Simone, is our youth services coordinator, and we have BODAC, which is Bethany Orange Woodbridge Drug and Alcohol Program. It was Orange originally, and then it was expanded, and we have a 3-town program for that currently that is run through our community service department. That is funded partly with state funds, federal grants, and town money, just to clear that up. The money we received so far is going to be, some of it is going to be used to reimburse expenses that were already done with the clinics that were held, the COVID clinics, and other and sundry needs with that. Some of it is being used to cover the bills for the preparation and development so that our children stayed in school and our town offices stayed open. The town of Orange never closed through the entire process. The town of Orange stayed open and operated the whole time. So there were many bills with that. There's a very large shortfall in the Orange visiting nurse budgets due to hospitals being closed down, elective surgeries and all being short. And there is a large financial hole there where it is allowed that some of that money will be made up that way. And moving forward, they're hoping to have the booster clinics. Also, I don't know if we're going to do the little children clinics. That's almost ready to go for those that choose to have shots or boosters. But that will be something that they're developing budget on. They came to me, I never said no, but they have to develop the budget, present it to the finance director is what they were told. And I think that is being formulated by way of emails I've seen between some of the members on that committee already. And we have some other projects. It's not just, they changed it. When the money first came out, it was dedicated as a COVID relief situation. In this building, we met with Chris Murphy and his staff, and they sent staff of quite a few others. Rose's people were here, Mary Wheelander was there from the state, and a lot of people, and Mayor Blake from Milford, and representatives to support West Haven. And I said to Chris then that it was too tight, and lo and behold, they changed some of the regulations so that the money can be used for some more projects and availability to a community. You just can't give out bonuses with it. So,
Mr. Dean.
What's the plan? What is the plan? That's a common question I've been asking. What is the plan? I think that the town of Orange should have put out a plan at this point of the proposed use of funding. I think that the first selectman should have gone to the Board of Selectmen and said, this is what I'm planning to do with it, and then had residents give their input on the use of the funds. That's happening in municipalities that neighbor the town of Orange. So it's not a a new idea. Number one, I've said it in the last debate, I've said it at doors. Number one is we make sure that our public health department is funded adequately. I don't believe that our public health department needs the full amount of funding. I've spoken with public health officials here in town. I don't think they need the full funding, and I don't think we have to overspend there. However, I do want to make sure we are adequately funded to see this through. And I think most people would probably agree with that, whether it's my stance or Mr. Zioli's stance. We are on the verge of Moderna and Johnson & Johnson being approved for booster shots, and if anybody who would like those, the opportunity to come to a clinic here in Orange, I think is a great idea. That's going to cost money. We're also on the verge of the 5 to 11 age group being approved by the FDA for emergency authorization. I think it would be an excellent thing if, of course, under parent guidance and supervision and approval, that our young people could come to a clinic here in Orange and get vaccinated should they choose. I think that would be an excellent use of the federal funding. Upon reading the bill, which we have talked about, both Mr. Zioli and I, is the fact that we can use it for infrastructure investments. And I think that we are at a point in Orange's history that this would be a great time to invest. I've met with residents who have severe flooding in their neighborhoods, or roads that are crumbling, or a playground that is being built. This is an excellent opportunity to use some of that money so that it doesn't cost you any more money. It's simple. Let's invest in the town. And I think with this money, residents would be able to see that return on investment. But again, it goes back to making sure that our public health department is adequately funded. But I do believe there will be room after we do that sufficiently. Thanks.
Mr. Zioli, do you want to rebut?
yeah, I think that our health department is adequately funded as they've requested. In the clinic that they ran where they vaccinated, I don't know, 1,800 people or something, they failed to gather the proper data and insurance from the people. It was not run as efficiently as it should have been. And we have the paperwork on about 100 that we can reclaim funding on. Other than that, all the rest are excess, and that money will come out of the government money. The health department didn't do too good a job while the vaccines were administered, which was the goal. The gathering of the data that goes along with that was not handled properly, and unfortunately that left a void there, so some of that money will pay for those expenses as well. I think that Connor made similar statements to mine. We will see if young children are, once that becomes approved, if they decide to do that here, or if that is something that would be more comfortable for parents of young children to be at their pediatrician's office or not at all, but that is their decision to make. I think that those are all good. With the infrastructure things and all, you have to be very careful with which areas you can use the money. It's not quite as wide open as Connor would like you to think. It still has some restrictions on it. So, and the original document was 150 pages, which they then added to. So that's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Dean, Orange voted to purchase the land that is Racebrook Country Club in February, but the lease agreement with the club is still not complete, nor have the main features of the lease been publicly released. What are your thoughts on the merits of the purchase and the status or disclosures about the lease?
I have to go back because I would be upset with myself if I didn't. Mr. Zeoli said that the Public Health Department did not run efficiently as they could have. I would like to analyze that and say, is that because of the support of the current administration? Were they fully supported from day one? And I don't know that answer. But perhaps if they were, maybe that department could have run more efficiently. On to Racebrook, one of my favorite topics. Racebrook is a really interesting thing because I have learned that while I've been involved in politics now, you always listen to the voter. Always. We had an interesting turnout for the Racebrook referendum. Nearly 2,000 people voted in that referendum to bond $8.6 million for the purchase of the land and the buildings that Racebrook Country Club currently resides. I was not in favor of that. I've been very honest with people when they ask me that question. Did you support the purchase of Racebrook Country Club? And I say no. And I always joke, I was one of maybe 20 people that did not vote in favor of it. However, I would say 90% of the doors that I knock on are not in favor of this purchase. Did they come out to vote? I'm unsure. And I encourage everybody that anytime we have a vote here in this building, please show up. And anybody can look at my record. I have a pretty strong record on voting here in the town of Orange, whether it's a presidential election or an Amity budget. Racebrook is an interesting thing. I think that coming off of COVID, when a lot of Orange residents, quite frankly, either lost a job, they lost a shift, they had to work from home, they had to pay for additional childcare. I don't see Racebrook as the best option, number one priority for the town of Orange. Even more so, I'm frustrated with the way the purchase went down. We were told in mid-January that this was an option. It went to referendum in mid-February. Now, for people who have jobs and children and things going on in their life, they were not spending all of their time on Racebrook Country Club for 3 weeks. I don't think we had enough time or information to make an educated decision on whether or not this was the right move for the town of Orange. Flash forward to now, it is mid-October, and we still have zero details on this. I've asked for 2 months now for the first selectman to release some details, and all we got was, we're still negotiating. Racebrook hasn't talked to us in 3 weeks. I understand we're closer to a deal, but this is taxpayer dollars. Our taxes went up to purchase
Okay,
this
Mr. Dean.
property.
Mr.
There
Dean.
should be transparency.
Mr. Zeoli?
Well, first, I'll jump back to the last comment of the comment. Connor's lack of knowledge of the town was quite evident right there with his speaking to the vaccine clinics. Had he come in here, he would have seen how many people there were in many different capacities, volunteering to be here to provide for the vaccine clinics. It had nothing to do with Jim Zioli and his administration. Absolutely not. And that insinuation is a disgusting insinuation. As far as Racebrook Country Club, that was in discussion for several months through the fall and winter. When we found out that Racebrook had an appointments with the town sanitarian, who was going to Racebrook Country Club to examine test holes they were digging for development over there, is how we found out that Racebrook Country Club was considering selling land over there. Called them up, had a couple meetings with them, went to the Board of Selectmen with that. Remember, you have a Board of Selectmen of a first selectman and 5 selectmen that are elected by you to do your work. And that's what those 6 selectmen did. And it was unanimous by those 6 selectmen, Republicans and Democrats, to put forward the possible purchase of that 287 acres and improvements to the public to vote on. There were many letters to the editor in the newspapers that Jim Zioli did, Jim Zioli did, Jim Zioli did. Jim Zioli's the first selectman. His job to bring things to the Board of Selectmen, who then in turn discuss it, take votes on these things, and bring it to the public. And that is exactly what happened. While you may not be happy about it, it wasn't Jim Zioli buying it. Jim Zioli brought it to the Board of Selectmen, who then voted unanimously to send it to you people to vote on. Mr. Heckman and I have had repeated discussions about public votes here in town for town budgets and other referendums. When he first started his newspaper, he told me we need to get more publicity out on it. He even paid for a separate flyer in his newspaper one budget to get people to come to vote on, I think then the budget was probably $68 million, I'll say. I think we had 239 people come and vote that time. We've tried to get people out to vote. The people of Orange come out when they choose to come out for something that they need. We put it to the people voted, and I think it was a good purchase in the long run for the community of Orange. I stand by that.
Mr. Dean.
I realize as this is a rebuttal, this will be rhetorical, but how many months did the Board of Selectmen go without any information from the first selectman? I don't know. Do you? I'm pretty sure it was many, many months. We apparently have a deal that we are on the cusp of. Perhaps the Board of Selectmen found out in their meeting last night in executive session. I don't know. But from my knowledge, this has been a private deal that's been going on with the town attorney, the first selectman, and Racebrook Country Club.
Thank you.
Mr. Zioli, what are your thoughts on the future of housing in Orange? How do you plan to effectively balance things like housing for the senior population and the 10% affordable housing mandate while preserving the town's history and landscape?
That's a very good one. There's many opportunities on the forefront. I have spoken and had dealings with several developers for several different opportunities. Firelight Shopping Center is one of those. I think any of you who patronize the barber shop or the nail salon in the back strip shopping center at Firelight, you will see that they are either currently or have finalized their moves into a new location, what would be, I'll call, up the hill beyond Patriot Bank and what would be the back of the liquor store. The Chinese takeout restaurant that is there will be moving also, and then that will be coming down. That's been a very long process to deal with that developer. There were threats of possible affordable project there. versus a market rate project there. I think it offers opportunities for some people, whether they be empty nesters, young people, or others for apartments there. I believe there'll be 72 or 75 apartments in that project. We also have a woman who lives here in town, and the property abuts hers on Smith Farm Road. She came forward with a project for 46, I believe, fully affordable units. Remember, when I say affordable, don't all run in fear as some people do. Affordable is based on a component of the median income of your community. The affordable units there, the income, the people that have incomes of 65 to 75,000 at the top tier. It offers a second type of possible living for both the senior side and the young people side and the empty nesters in the middle. We don't have a lot of spots for this because due to our soil types and topography, most of it has to be contained where there are sewered areas. The whole town certainly does not have sewers, and anybody who's had to put a septic system in is just throwing $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 at a hole in the ground. But so we are working on that, working with developers. Carol Martin and her group, Gyroscope Development, that's doing the one on Smith Farm Road, are going to have a nice project when it's done over there. It offers an opportunity. The project that is going to go to Firelight Shopping Center is going to offer an opportunity. Do I want to see that all over town? No. It won't fit all over town. We do not have the right sewers, soil types, topography to make things work all over town. They have to fit in certain areas. Same as Fieldstone Village fit up on the Route 34 side of town. There are only certain areas where these things can go.
Thank you. Mr. Dean?
I think that we have a responsibility to our seniors, most importantly, to make sure that we do have options for them to go when they would like to move or sell their home, but would like to remain here in Orange. I also think, conversely, our young people need a place to live. Right now, it's really difficult for somebody my age, or a few years younger, or maybe even a few years older, to bid against somebody who's moving in from New York City paying $500,000 on a home that 5-10 years ago was $250,000. So that's got to be a priority. We have to look at the areas that we know we can put these types of development on. But I too am definitely interested in preserving the fabric that we all know and love, that is the town of Orange. I have no interest in not going down Old Grassy Hill and seeing a beautiful field. That's part of why we love the town of Orange. However, like things like at Firelight Shopping Center, I would have pushed that to have happened much earlier and not let it go vacant for so long. But I do think we have a responsibility to young and old to make sure that there are a variety of options that fit within the current fabric of our community.
Mr. Zioli?
The Firelight Shopping Center was owned by, I think, 2, if not 3 different owners over the period of its decline. Proposals were pushed forward. Zoning denied some proposals in the past. The developer that currently owns it bought it, still a lot of money, but at a distressed price compared to what the first guy, I can't even remember his name, he drove a black Porsche and his license plate was black ice. I do remember that. Yeah, it was a beautiful car. You know, so he paid like $4.2 million, and I think it was sold this time for like $3.1 or $4 million. So he bought it at a distress level, still big money. But the developers and property managers control those, and you try to work with them. Anne Marie Sleiby and the Economic Development Corporation do a great job. Our new chamber director is working very hard trying to network with these people also. They're working from two directions, and it helps. Right now, we have a grant going into the state, a request going into the state of Connecticut that potentially could revitalize a property or two, but you have to make it broad-based. So we're submitting it for an area between Racebrook Road, 114, and Bull Hill Lane. There's some properties there. So that's going in tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But, you know, you have to work with the property owners and the developers and fit things where they're appropriate within our community.
Thank you.
There's been a proliferation of yard signs and other forms of unregulated outdoor signage in Orange during the pandemic. The zoning enforcement officer is normally the person who enforces rules regarding signs. All right, let me start over. There's been a proliferation of yard signs and other forms of unregulated outdoor signage in Orange during the pandemic. The zoning enforcement officer is normally the person who enforces rules regarding such signs. What is your position on outdoor signs, and how aggressively should the town be tackling this issue as the pandemic winds down?
Who's it for?
Mr. Dean.
Oh,
Can I just ask a question? Are we talking commercial or residential?
Actually, both.
Great. I think residentially, we absolutely should be looking at signs. I'm one of them. They're up right now, as are Mr. Zioli's. I think we probably both can agree that we're looking forward to this election to be over so that our yards can go back to somewhat normal. I think that the political signs are taxing on the average person, and I, for one, am looking forward to them coming down once the election is over. That, to me, is kind of the exception of signage in residential neighborhoods. The other thing that I think, you know, COVID was a really, really wacky time for a lot of people. I know there were signs celebrating graduations and birthdays to try to bring a little happiness to some of our youngsters. I would imagine that we're going to recalibrate that once we fully come out of COVID. In terms of our commercial district, I'm pretty certain that we have zoning rules that would enforce that, and I would refer to our zoning enforcement officer to make sure that all of our rules and regulations are being followed.
Mr. Zioli.
I don't think the question was actually aimed at our political signs. I think it was more of the tag sale signs and crap signs that you see. And, you know, it's nice to have a tag sale. You got a lot of stuff accumulated in your house over the last 5, 10, 50 years. Have the tag sale. But then go back around and take the signs down. That's where the problem is. That drives me absolutely crazy. People see me stop sometimes, get out, open the back of the Explorer, take their signs off telephone poles and stuff. And if they have an address on them, I'll go there and I'll throw them in their driveway. And so if any of you have done that and found them in your driveway, it might have been me. Come on, if you're going to put them up, take them down. Those aren't really regulated by Jack. Ed Lieberman, when he worked for us, it used to drive him crazy too. He would go around and take them down. There is a proliferation of them though, and it's disgusting. The Post Road, I actually, and the Zoning Commission asked, Jack Demerjian is our zoning enforcement officer. He started as an intern, zoning and wetlands. He started as an intern under Paul Denise, as Paul Denise was moving towards retirement, and Jack moved into that position upon Paul's retirement. And we told him during the COVID, when it was really ugly, go easy on the businesses. Let them have some extra signs out there. They need it. They have to figure out ways to entice people in. And he did, and he still has to a degree. However, some of the vendors then started to take advantage with too many of those, they call them blade signs. They're like a flag on a big metal rod that stick up and all. And, you know, if you have one out in front is good, but you can't have 6, you know, and this sort of thing. So now Jack has started to go out and enforce where there's excessive signage and all on that, and real estate signage. You know, if there's a building that all the square footage is filled in, they shouldn't be having their, those big 4x4 for lease signs out there, and he's following up on some of those too. But Jack is in my office at least 3 times a week. Mr. Z, I have a question about this or about that, but he's doing a great job. He's young, and he's come a long way quickly, and he's learning, and he's doing a really great job. But the ugly signs are the ones. Have your sales, have your concerts, have your benefits, have whatever. Then go back and pick them up. It's as simple as that, truly.
Anything
That's it.
further, Mr. Dean?
I would agree. You know, I'm not seeing as many of the signs that stay up as Mr. Zioli is.
I got there before you.
Yeah, yeah. You must do the overnight shift. I don't know if they're disgusting, but yes, there's an element of respect that I think as residents and people who care about this community, we all should want to follow. And again, I trust Jack to do his job, and I think he's doing a great job. And I'm happy to see somebody young be involved in our town government.
Thank you.
Mr. Zioli, Orange currently has a high fund balance and a good credit rating. Yet there are also infrastructure needs in town. About a third of homes still rely on well water, sewer systems are limited, and there are, of course, always roads that need improvements or repair. How would you bring infrastructure improvements to the town while retaining its strong fiscal position?
All right, well, first, the sewer systems are restricted by zones, not zoning, by zones, which is established by the WPCA back when that was first put in with Griner Engineering and the town and all, and it is in certain areas, which is why what we talked about earlier, certain housing will only fit in certain areas. That's where the allowances are for it. As far as development of it into the residential districts, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I won't say that it will never happen, but I think there will be improvements on the types of, environmentally, how gray water is dealt with from private properties. Water and gas are both controlled respectively by the Regional Water Authority and Southern Connecticut Gas. The president of the UI and Gas Company, it's one and the same, was in the office 3 weeks ago, and we asked him, because if you notice, there has been zero expansion of gas in town. At one point, you saw them poking in gas in a lot of areas. All of a sudden, they stopped for no reason. The last place they did a lot of it was some on the far side of town where they came across with the mains when they came under the river, and they come up through that side of town, and some closer to the post road. I mean, there's gas right out here in front. They could go into Carriage Drive. They could do High Plains Drive. There's some really easy neighborhoods and stuff they could expand into. But I brought this to his attention, and they are going to look into it because they want to expand their customer base for gas. The water company, they're a whole nother operation, and they're not doing a lot of expansion. I tried to get them to connect some dead ends. There's one on Wheeler's Farms, actually right by Joe Maruli's house. There's 2 dead ends. One comes from Milford, one comes from Orange. I said, if you connected that, you own both systems, it would improve the flow and allow some other people public water supply in between there and all. No, until somebody decides to want to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for it, they won't do it. They say the cost of return on it for them isn't it? And they don't give us breaks. We had to put in a new hydrant up at Turkey Hill School, and I'm a pretty good bargain driver, and I couldn't make much headway there. I did get a little bit out of them, but not a lot. We got cost on parts and material, and I think labor at a reduced rate, but it was difficult. So these are the things we're doing to try to improve all the services to our residents.
Mr. Dean.
We do have a high fund balance. We're at about 20%. That's a really large amount of undesignated funds. Moody's recommends let's call it 15%, to keep that AAA bond rating that we've both talked so highly of. That's important to keep that AAA bond rating. However, there's a lot of leeway in between that I think can be used to invest in the town. We've talked about roads before. We've talked about education and investing in our education buildings. We've talked about a playground. I think these are things that are excellent options for us to invest some of that money, not all of it. Not all of it. We have to be fiscally responsible, and I think that's important. But we have the money to invest in the infrastructure of our town. And we can talk about water and gas, and I think that Jim's right. Those need to be conversations with those companies. But there are things that we could do in the short term that people will see their return. And I've said before, you can invest your money better than Town Hall can. So if we have a little bit too much in that fund, let's use some of it. Let's let residents see how we are continuing to improve the infrastructure of our community.
Mr. Zioli, would you like to respond?
Of course. Actually, it's 18.42% budget to fund balance. And as I said last week, we spent over $1,770,000, I think, on road paving this year. Almost $2 million. And it was all spent with town fund balance money. This coming year will be about $1.5 million, $1.7 million. We're using fund balance money for that because I like to see our debt service declining on some of our old funding before we go for new. Each time we fund for bonding for road work and all, we bond $5 million, which lasts 4 years. Well, this year we didn't bond that money. Next year we're not bonding that money. We don't need to. We have money. If you go over into the Broadview, Windy Hill neighborhoods all over in there, you'll see a lot of paving that we did over there. If you go actually on this side of town, Wellington, Manley Heights, Rolling Ridge was all done on the fall paving program. So you're headed towards $2 million, and that money came out of fund balance. Next year, it's the same thing again. Last night, a proposal was brought forward. We've had some very lively discussions, Mr. Pisano and myself, about some things down at Wolf Park. And we brought forward for some fencing. That'll be done with LoCIP money, not your taxpayer dollars. We're able to use money for many different projects. The playground, they are getting town money beyond what the $300,000 grant money and money that they're fundraising for community buy-in. There will be town money invested in that project also. But I guess some see it and some don't. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Residents and neighbors of Fred Wolf Park had some concerns about the plan for the site. When the town was informed that the driveway entrance to Fred Wolf Park as originally laid out on the master plan was not feasible, why didn't the town go back to the firm who developed the original master plan and have them make modifications to the original plan? And what do you see as the path forward for the park and the playground, Mr. Dean?
That seems like a question that should go to Mr. Zioli first, because I don't know why they didn't go back to the architects of the master plan. I've spoken with residents in that area of town, and there are some big concerns. Again, this goes back to my idea of communication. I'm still unsure what the plan for Fred Wolf Park is. And I'm sure Mr. Zioli does know. I'm sure it's on his desk. I'm sure he talked to somebody today about it.
Nope.
I'm getting ahead of myself. That's normally the answer on things. I would like to see a plan. I think this is an excellent addition to what the town offers to the community. A fantastic playground. Tom Pisano has done an incredible job building a huge soccer program. We have a lacrosse program now. This is going to be a big win for Orange. However, I feel like residents should be informed. I feel like the different committees should be consulting. I understand we're starting to see that now. But as residents, we still really don't know what the plan for this is. And I'd like to see that. And I can't give you an answer of why we didn't go back to the architects and engineers of this master plan. I'm not sure.
Mr. Zioli?
The town had intentions of building the main roadway out onto the intersection at Pine Tree Drive and Peck Lane. That was designed by the engineers. Unfortunately, the job was done, maybe I hate to say poorly, but it was, because there was more than 4,000 to 5,000 square feet of disturbance of wetlands. When you go to that, it automatically triggers to the Army Corps of Engineers. When the Army Corps of Engineers came in, they then said, well, you have too many wetlands pockets in here. We would have had to build 3 bridges. The grant money for that and any other was cost prohibitive, number one. And actually, it ends up, right now, that's one of the areas where we have a little bit of a flooding problem for the neighbor to the, I guess would be to the east of it. So fortunately, it didn't happen as they had designed, because it might have made Ms. Birmingham's problem even worse. That's why. There was no alternative to go back to that strip of land that carries out there. So instead, there's a second opening on Oakview Drive, which is now where the second driveway has to go out, because that's where we have that location. Eventually, there is the possibility of 2 other spots where more improvements may be done that would allow for driveway access, parking access. Remain to be seen at this time, but there are a couple other spots where there's possibility. One of them is a piece of land that is at the end of a street where is kind of the bane of the existence of some neighbors there. Maybe the town will end up with that piece someday. High Plains Drive comes pretty close to it across the street here. So there are some other possibilities in the future, but they require some other wetland crossings and dealings as far as that. But there have been meetings on it. There have been meetings at Park and Rec. There's been meetings at Selectmen. There's been meetings of the Playground Committee. There have been multiple meetings. They're publicized. They're on the town website. Sometimes they end up in the newspaper if the reporters so choose. And if people decide to come, they're the same 239 maybe that can fit in coming to one of the budget referendums, is all I can say.
Mr. Dean?
I don't think that master plan, the original master plan, was put out in the past 2 years. Pretty sure it was put out further back. So to me, there would have been, there was ample time to go back and figure out the strategy. And again, collaboration and communication. I feel like we're haphazardly putting things together, that we're putting things out. Let's put out a cohesive plan for the projects that we take on so residents can be informed. I think it's pretty obvious how we can do that and make sure that residents and our community are involved and understand what these excellent projects are taking on.
Thank you.
Mr. Zioli, as holder of the highest office in the town, the first selectman is something of a thought leader in the community. How would you navigate controversial issues that might not directly be in your job description, but where your voice still carries weight, such as the resettling of refugees, support of undocumented immigrants working or living in town, or the teaching of things like critical race theory?
Our an open community as best as I can say, and I speak to that quite regularly. I think that kind of goes to somewhat with the housing options that we discussed before. Both Mr. Dean and I kind of were in agreement on the apartments and the affordable housing and that sort of living allowances for people. As far as anything beyond that, these people find work, find jobs. Most of them are rather industrious once they get here. And we work with that, and we welcome people into the community if we know they're there. With the titles that you gave some of those people in your question, some of them don't want you to know that they're there also. But where we can, we do help. Our education system, I don't know where we are now. At one point, there were 39 different languages being put out there for people that had come to our elementary school system. I can't speak to Amity, the elementary system, where English was not their first language. And they're learning we provide, I think, Rosetta Stone or a similar program like that to a lot of these families and all to learn. But we are open to that. As far as critical race and all, there is a committee. They actually sent me a text last night while we were in our selectmen meeting asking about how they go forward with their authority, who they see, what they propose for that committee also. I think with time we're going to see that evolve. It's taking them, it took me a long time to put the committee together to find people that wanted to serve, and it's taking them time to actually get meetings where all the people are participating, and now they're starting to gel and come up with some, develop some ideas and thoughts. So I think they will be coming both to the Board of Selectmen and to the Board of Education with some of their ideas as we go forward. But I don't micromanage their committees, but I do give them my thoughts as to where stuff might benefit, whether it be zoning, wetlands, Board of Education, finance, community service. I have spoken at probably most every board and commission at one point or another with thoughts. Sometimes they're considered and sometimes they're not.
Mr. Dean.
Well, first I want to clarify, we don't have a critical race theory committee. We have a diversity task force. There's a huge difference there. And I find it unfortunate that it took this long to get it up and running. I understand they are meeting now. It's taken a year. That's a long time. When I think of Orange, I think of a strong community. I think of people who care for one another, who are kind to one another. And that's what I hope this diversity task force can really work to see, that we as a community are caring for everyone, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation. We are a fantastic community. And I will say a little anecdote here. When I was in second grade, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. We didn't know if she was going to make it. Within hours, we had a schedule of food deliveries from the people of the town of Orange, and it went on for months. The people of Orange are amazing. We are here to support each other. When my grandmother passed at 74 years old from lung cancer, I had never seen Keenan Funeral Home with a line out the door the way it was, or the way Holy Infant was absolutely packed. These are the people of the town of Orange. We are good people who care. And I think that in 2021, going into 2022, it's not a bad thing to do some self-reflection and figure out how we can do better. I think that that's important for all of us, to make sure that we're welcoming, to make sure that we're caring, and that we have an understanding of other people from different backgrounds. To me, that's not a bad thing. That's a positive. That pushes Orange forward. And as first selectman, day one, I intend to meet with our diversity task force and give them whatever they need to move the town of Orange forward.
Mr. Zioli.
I think Connor and I agree enough on that one that I can leave it where it is. I think that it's, I met with the Diversity Task Force at their very first meeting, gave them their work that they started. Rob Hames is the chairman of that. They're doing a great job. I think that we're okay. I think I know a woman who came here as an immigrant, and I didn't know it at the time when I was making an appointment. And this woman, after long discussion, said to me, Mr. Zioli, she says, you don't realize it, but I've been here longer than the people who at that time were criticizing or questioning my ability. And I said, what are you talking about? And she came here, I think, as a 5-year-old, and she told me the story about walking up the driveway of Casacrio's farm, which was on Indian River Road, where they're building the new assisted living and all now. She's of Puerto Rican descent. Mr. Casacrio had brought her father here as a laborer, and then the mother and the 2 sisters came here when they were little, like 5 years old. That father worked hard in this town of Orange for a family here in town. He educated both of his daughters, and I was stunned when she started to tell me, and I knew people. It turned out I knew her father as an old man and never realized it. And she now sits on the Orange Board of Education very proudly as a Democrat, and I'm very proud that I appointed her to that position. So I think that we're pretty open in the town of Orange.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you both. We'll break here for about 10 minutes. We ask you to talk among yourselves and pose some questions for the audience, and then we'll convene about 8:45 for audience-based questions.
The way we're going to run this next section is simply to ask those of you who wish to pose a question to come up to the podium and ask your question. We ask that you be respectful in your questioning. Who wants to come up first?
I think they had enough.
How about who wants to come up third? Come. And when you come up, just please state your
You have to
name.
state your name for the record.
For the record, thank you.
Brandon's got to write it.
Hi, my name is Dominic Lombardi. Is that good enough?
That was very good.
Thank you. All right, I have a question for Mr. Dean. So at the beginning of the debate, your municipal experience was brought into question, and I don't really feel as though you gave an adequate answer, so I want to give you another opportunity to. What municipal experience do you have that would give me, as a registered voter in the town of Orange, confidence that you could lead effectively and efficiently a town with an $80 million budget? That's my question.
Yeah, thanks, Dominic. We have a $76 million budget. Excuse me, sorry. Are we good now? Thanks. We have a $76 million budget. I'm a business owner that I've built a business from the ground up. I balance my budget every year. I have leadership skills. I have strong ties to the community. And you're right, I don't have municipal experience. And I think that's a valid question to ask. But I don't think it's disqualifying for me to want to be involved in the town. I've been involved in the town from the sidelines for 29 years. And I take pride in what I've done and been a part of in the town of Orange, as has my family. So while I respect your question, I think that my leadership skills as a business owner and my understanding of the town of Orange make me more than qualified to be running for this office. And I thank you for your question.
Very good. Who's next? That's it? Oh, Carl's got one.
Making you proud.
Hello, my name's Carl Goldblatt. My question is in regards to transparency. I feel as though in this town there is a lack of it, and I feel as though it is inappropriate where we are receiving information from private Facebook accounts, and I would like to see the town of Orange make a difference where I can feel like I am getting the information that I deserve, and I'd like to hear Connor's position on his plans for transparency in this town.
Thanks, Carl. I've talked about this before. I think communication is so vital to the success of our community. And as for Selectmen, it's pretty clear what we're going to do. We're going to do an e-blast that goes out every Friday. It will be sent out to residents that opt into it. It'll be sent out from the town as well as from the Chamber of Commerce, I hope. This e-blast will include things that are going on in town. Right now, namely, what's going on with COVID in regards to the town of Orange. It will have what businesses are opening in the town of Orange. It'll have what's going on in our school systems. As somebody who went through the Amity High School program and theater department, we'll definitely plug the musicals in the spring, as well as sporting events. That's really important. We can do the idea of that from an e-blast across a variety of platforms, collaborating with Steve and the other newspapers, Terry Miles here in town, to make sure that we're getting the word out on what is happening in town. The other thing that I would like to say is when it comes to large projects that are happening, I'll inform residents. We will have a plan that we put out for everyone to see. I don't want to have a government and administration where people are confused as to what's happening here in town. My door at Town Hall will always be open. Residents are more than welcome to come in and have conversations with me. I value that. I value that now as a business leader, and I will certainly value that as your next first selectman.
Mr. Zeoli, you can respond to that.
What?
You can respond if you like.
No, he asked him the question.
He would like to hear your opinion, he said.
Oh, all right. Well, generally, since you aimed at me, generally your part must be part of the group since you're not a friend of mine on Facebook. You must be one of the stalkers, as I usually post it on there, which is fine. It's on there. I put it right on there. If you read the account, I write it. I don't hide it. So don't boo it because I say it right out front. It's what it is. That's exactly what it's called.
Down, please. Thank you.
The website carries the town information. I am entitled as a townsperson to write on my Facebook page anything that I know. But the town website would have it first. I don't need to write about things on my page that I don't feel are appropriate. Connor already said last week, he likes the pictures of my mums and pumpkins. He says they're nice. So, you know, and he is a friend of mine on Facebook. So, you know, that's how it goes. Read the town website first, and then if you want to follow my page, you're more than welcome to follow it, but that's my page. That's not the town's page.
Anyone else who has a question as opposed to a negative comment would be welcome. Just ask a question. One of the most learned folks here.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Hadlock. I live at 305 Goose Lane, and I have lived in Orange for just over 40 years. And my question's a toss-up for both of the candidates, but I'd like both to, in turn, to answer it. And that is that the tax base of Orange is significantly based on big box retail. Yet we all know that big box retail is a declining industry, if you will. The percentage of total sales being done in person in retail stores has been in sharp decline now for 2 decades and is only going to continue. What is your vision for the tax base, the commercial tax base of Orange over the next 10 to 15 years, and how do you expect to achieve that given the decline in big box retail stores?
Mr. Zioli, if you want to answer first.
Okay. Kevin's 100% right. For many years, the commercial district of Orange, the Post Road, was always called the Golden Mile. People of other communities were enthralled with all of our commercial development and retail sales there. That has declined, and it is declining more with time, except for specialty needs, niche markets, restaurants. Friday, Saturday night seem to be the most busy place on our Post Road. We met with the owners of I still call it the Sears Plaza, it's Burlington Coat currently. They're coming forward with a plan to subdivide out that 135,000 square foot building from their existing shopping center and turn it to a different type of zoned use. And they're looking at a couple different possibilities. Warehousing, management is one thing they're looking at, but there's also, they've been approached by most of your cannabis in this area, even as close as West Haven, is indoor grown under controlled environment. And there's a possibility that they are even considering something like that as an indoor grow space for that facility. They also have a solar company that is, the roof is $1 million for a new roof on that building. The solar array company is willing to put the new roof on that building in exchange for being allowed to use it for solar array. So we've met with companies like that to fit into that. Another example, Kevin, was when Sam's Club and Lowe's both went out of business side by side. They're owned by 2 different entities, but Amazon leased both of those and is operating their vehicle maintenance, storage, and operations out of the Sam's building, and shipping and that type of operation out of the Lowe's building. My problem with Amazon is not Amazon, the business that's delivering to all of our houses, but I sure wish they would register their vehicles, all those delivery companies would register their vehicles in the states that they're in. Connecticut has Amazon hubs in multiple locations, and if you see those blue vans, and they have a lot of generic white ones also now, because they can't get enough. There's over 300 vehicles down at the Orange site, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a Connecticut license plate. And I've spoken with our legislators about it, and I really think that they need to look into that further. The vehicles that are used in the state should be registered in the state. That's also revenue that's being left on the table, unfortunately, both for the town and the state of Connecticut. The redevelopment of the Firelight Shopping Center as a mixed use with living accommodations, as well as some retail and banking and other services, is another example of change for that. We have a couple more that are in the works, but until the owners of the properties, as we said earlier, decide to do something with them or come public, we have to wait and see. But there's change that evolves. Remember when CompUSA went out of business, everybody was so upset. We lost $6,000 in property tax there because all you get taxed in a retail location like that from the business was the support structure in the interior. The property tax you always still collect on the building and on the ground underneath it. So there you're still collecting, but when you have vacancy, then it makes it harder to get a neighbor to a neighbor. Some of the shopping centers are starting to look at some improvements and revitalization. Some of them definitely need some. If they want to stay there, they need a facelift at minimum. But you see stores that go out of business. There was a store in Loman's Plaza that was there for probably 30 plus years, and many of the people shopped there for gifts when they were going to somebody's house or for a friend or something, and the woman decided to close up and didn't want somebody else to, deal with it. So there's a lot of things involved, but we're working on mixed use and changing of zone uses. That's all I can offer.
Mr. Dean,
Are we, just out of curiosity, are we going with the 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay,
3 minutes.
I'm going to keep mine short. I would like to see us embrace specialty right now, because I think that is, to Jim's point, and Kevin, to your point, where people are shopping. I think restaurants are important. I would like to see more restaurants. I think there's two aspects of this, right? Part of it is relieving some of the tax burden on residents. That's an important part. The other part is, where do our people shop? Again, we've talked about this. I've heard from residents. They don't do most of their shopping in the town of Orange. As a resident, I think most of us would want to stay local, shop local. I do have the experience of two small businesses, both the business that my grandfather started, and I realize that is niche. Hockey apparel is a niche business, but they've done tremendously well over the 40 years that they've done business here in Orange, and same with mine. So perhaps we'll be opening a secondary Broadway Method Academy here in Orange, because again, I think we got to bolster up the arts here in Orange. But we do need to see, coming from a design background, we do need to see a revitalization of our storefronts. I think that's so important. It's got to be aesthetically pleasing for people to want to come shop. And I often talk about what happened right over the town line in Milford, the Whole Foods Plaza, the REI, the Jersey Mike's. That area is booming all of the time, because I think it's aesthetically pleasing. People want to go shop there. And they happen to have good businesses, Whole Foods. People are eating healthier now. I think we need to look at it. And again, it goes back to plan, communication, and collaboration. I think that we should do, maybe resurrect the post-road study for 2022 and figure out, where are people shopping, where are people eating, and how can we attract businesses like them to the town of Orange.
Thank you both.
Is there a sixth question from anybody in the crowd? Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. I want to thank Ron Davis and his crew.
Steve, we still have closing comments.
I'm sorry, excuse
from
me.
both candidates.
Okay.
Sorry. So we are going to have closing comments now from both candidates. Each of you will have 3 minutes to answer why you are the best choice for first selectman, and we will start with Mr. Zioli.
I think that with me, you know what you're getting. My track record is here. It has been here and continues to be here. I think that I have worked to maintain the fiscal stability of the town of Orange. I was able to achieve the AAA bond rating and maintain that AAA bond rating for over 10 years now. We carry the recommended fund balance to budget, which is 16 to 17% by Standard & Poor's in our last bond review. And we still have money that can be used for capital improvements. When I took office, open space was important to all of you and the town of Orange, and we have doubled the amount of open space that maintains the character and quality of life in this town since I took office. Doubled it. There is still some more to come. I have met with some land trust representatives about a parcel currently that the town and the land trust are both very interested in, so that continues. As first selectman of your town, you meet with a lot of people. There's a lot of confidentiality, and a lot of things aren't publicly discussed. You have to manage and share that information when it's appropriate to share with your Board of Selectmen or other boards or commissions as appropriate. You are the chief elected official of the town by the residents of the community, and they expect you to operate on their behalf, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or some other party. I think we have like 11 parties, something like that. Janice can tell you for sure. And that's how I operate. Our door is open. We are available. We are out meeting with people, looking at projects, looking at problems, meeting with people in the office, on the phone, on the computer, and that will continue. And I think that the education in our community, fiscal strength, and quality that makes people want to move here, as we have seen over the last 12 months, proves that people want to be in Orange and want to be where Jim Zioli has been first selectman for 16 years and on the Board of Selectmen for 6 years prior.
Thank you, Mr. Zioli. Mr. Dean, if you would tell us why you are the best choice for first selectman.
Well, first I'd like to thank the audience. I think we're dwindling, but that's okay. I appreciate those who are still here, and especially those who are watching from home. And to Steve Heckman, the Milford Orange Times publisher, as well as our moderators, Brandon and Dan, for organizing tonight's event. It's quite obvious that Orange, along with the rest of the world, is coming out of one of the worst health crises in modern history. The job of first selectman is not ceremonial or part-time. You need to be hands-on and fully accountable. However, he or she is not a one-man show. Time and time again, I've stressed the importance of collaboration over the course of this campaign. It's something that I truly, truly believe is needed for success. As first selectman, I will utilize that approach and expect that taxpayers hold me to that higher standard. I will collaborate with Dr. Mohammed, our trusted public health director. I will consult Chief Gagne, who runs one of the most respected police forces in the state of Connecticut. I will listen to residents who deserve to be heard and included. I've said before, and I'll say it again, my door will be open. Our team will work to create a professional, respectful, and collaborative Orange. And I've heard from residents. And it's all public knowledge because they've come to meetings and they've said, Jim, I've reached out to you. I've emailed you. I've called you. No response. On November 2nd, we have a clear choice to make. Do we continue to adopt the same stagnant leadership of the past nearly 2 decades, or seize the opportunity to move forward and catapult into the future? A future that I believe is bright, where Orange is again an affordable and desirable place to raise children and retire. This November, we have the opportunity to raise the bar, to exceed expectations and move Orange forward. I ask for your vote as you head to the polls on November 2nd, and I thank you for your support.
Thank you both.
So now, thank you all for coming. I want to acknowledge Ron Davis and his wonderful crew for doing this work. Also, I want to remind you, I think it's a week from this Sunday, is the third and final chapter of the debate at the Ursula Men's Club, which has been going on for how many years, Mitch? A long time. It's well worth going to. So again, thank you all for coming, and thank you on television. And I'm sorry if I'm a little delayed here. Bye-bye. And thank you, guys. Thanks, Jim.